That was quite a trip.
Before I get into the text, I want to spend a little time talking about where I grew up in Iowa. I was fortunate to have a lot of really wonderfully strong adults and mentors all throughout my life. The principal one of those was my great-grandmother, who I was very close to. She was a person that a lot of people looked to. She was the matriarch of our family, and people with questions would come to her. And I got to experience that and understand the power in that sort of gentle leadership that she had. She came from a place of faith, and in my youth, my faith was very strong. If you've ever seen the movie Bridges of Madison County, that's what I grew up in. My mother had no hesitation to go visiting, she would call it. And she would walk into a neighbor's house or a friend's house and announce her presence, and she would make coffee, and they would sit for a couple hours, smoke cigarettes, and have conversations. This was an intergenerational sort of idea. My grandfather did the same sort of thing. Wherever we went, he could find someone and have a conversation with them. And then after about 20 or 30 minutes, when he came back, he would tell us about the politics of the area. He would tell us about what was going on, what was the hot news, what was going on nationally, and of course the weather. I believe that what these stories really illustrate is the power of communication, and I believe really strongly in that, and that organizations that face issues, it's because of the lack of communication. I knew that I wanted to be an educator in 7th grade. I also knew that I wanted to be an artist or a musician. I was fortunate to have a lot of people around me that supported that vision. As an artist, I sit on the outside of most things, which I think works really well in the classroom or as a leader. You're constantly observing, you're constantly assessing, you're constantly evaluating. Is this something that I want to bring into my art, or is this something that I want to be a part of my organization?
Level 1 leadership. The book describes level 1 leadership as positional leadership that is based on the rights that are granted to you by the position and the title, meaning that somebody in the organization thought that you were ready to move up to that position. Some really interesting insights in that chapter was these ideas around that you can never leave the level behind. Same level with everybody, and that in fact you can go backwards really quickly, but going forward takes time. And again, each time that you do that, you're creating a new layer of trust with the people that you're working with. You can't expect moving up any of the layers unless you grow also as a leader. I listened to Julie Mason on POTUS channel. It's a satellite radio channel on my drives back and forth from Plymouth, and she was having an interview with Al Franken, who's the senator from Minnesota. The issues that he had to face in going into politics, and to make that transition from comedian to a politician, he really had to work on toning that part of his personality down. So in thinking about that, he went to Tamara Luzzatto, who was a communications person that worked for Hillary Clinton, and he asked her for some advice. Her best advice that he kind of follows to this day is that you need to be a workhorse, not a show horse. I think that applies within leadership, that you really got to show the people that you're going to work as hard, if not harder, than them in everything that we do. Because our natural position is to stay at status quo. But I believe people at their core really want someone who's going to go on the journey with them, who's going to support them in areas maybe that they don't understand. Maxwell, I think, makes a very good point, and the relationship between kind of the ministry work that he's been involved with and this idea of business and, what Senge calls the servant leadership sort of model. And I think that's really, really important. Level 2 leadership. It's entirely based on relationships. If you don't have level 1 safety and a trust developed in it, you really cannot move with your group or with yourself.
I feel like I really found my creative rhythm when I started doing theatrical productions and the creative work that I do. It's all about the community. It's all about the collaboration and understanding that I rely on others' input and others' support and others' vision to make something unique happen within the community. What I learned early on in these creative processes is that to start the conversations early, and by doing that I develop trust and I develop a unified vision, and that enables people to come to me with questions and I can answer them authentically and they feel safe in the direction that they take. Level 1 leaders who do not communicate can be disastrous for an organization. We had such a principal at our high school. He came in, he dismantled everything that was positive about the school. He dismantled everything that was an initiative that was not his idea and put in place these experiments that were his idea and that eventually all failed. He did not communicate with faculty, with staff, or with the community.
I had never seen the Chinese character for to listen, and I thought that's a great thing that he had in the text. The ears, I hear what you say. The eyes, I see what you say. My heart, I feel what you say. My mind, I am mindful of what you're saying, and I have your undivided attention, and I value who you are and what you say. And isn't that really what we should be doing at a level 2 all the time?
As I became a more mature educator, I really started to put a lot of weight in this reflective time, thinking about thinking, the metacognition of education, the metacognition of the theater work that I do or the creative work that I do. Peter Senge talks about the ladder of inference, and like my grandfather standing on the corner talking to people, I am also really interested where people come from, what they're thinking, and what their experiences are.
Level 3 leaders, the people follow you because you get the results done for your organization. This is really the level where you can't fake it till you make it. I believe, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And then once you get into the position, it really becomes about what you know. The leader needs to show progress in what they're doing, especially educational systems, which are too expensive for you just to kind of tread in water and just see where things go. This chapter also discusses this idea of being an authentic leader. Again, this gets at servant leadership, and I think there's such an authenticity to people that are true leaders who care at the core about the things that you're working on or who you're working with.
Educators and people who work in the theater, I think, are really level 3 leaders because they can't miss a deadline. They have to hit their target, and they have to do the best work that they can possibly do. And that includes time, that includes thinking, and that includes motivating people around us. We're also systems thinkers. We look at routines. We look at all of the possibilities to bring the things that we do out at the highest level. Collaboration is probably one of the most important things. As an educator, it took me about 10 years to realize it's just not about imparting information. It's about going on a journey with somebody and exploring their knowledge and their processes and seeing what we can do together. I realized early in education and theater to expend my energy on that 20% to yield the 80% results. We always overshoot and overplan. We realize that as we are working, that we're going to pull the most important things out and let the rest go. The tendency in the work that we do is to overplan. This is good for us. It gives us the opportunity to look at the broad scope of things and really pull out the most important 20%.
So, level 4, this is the people development level. So I want to be able to reproduce what I've created within the environment or the job or the business or the school.
Though there are ideas within level 4 and 5 that are good, they really pertain to larger organizations and maybe not as much in my classroom. I can certainly take some of these ideas and work on them with students, but for myself, I don't see them as a priority.
The text talks about it as being moving from a perfectionist to a pragmatist, and I think that's really spot on.
And I also believe that one of the central tenets of a level 4 and a level 5 is that we are authentic and that we are mentors for that next generation.
All right. Finally, level 5. That's the pinnacle. It's the top. People follow because of who I am and what I represent. I'm not there. What this doctoral program has done is really excited me about the possibility of getting to the top of my field and being a leader for others, and this idea that I can educate educators and have some legacy that can move on with that.
3 of the things that Maxwell talks about in level 5, I think, apply generally across all the levels, and those are working on people's strengths instead of their weaknesses. I think this is something that we can do every day. Giving power away to someone else is very freeing. And the 3rd thing is seeing potential leaders as they could be instead of as they are. And isn't that the job of every mentor and every educator? That we see the potential and we nurture that potential? One of the things I can do now as a leader is remain teachable and remain humble. In this accelerating time of education and research and data, it's important that we stay flexible and willing to go where it takes us.
So that's it. That's the text. Bye.